and I thought it was just like a little experiment. And I'm dropping things everywhere. So this is like a craft with me and a craftorial, if you will, because I was experimenting, because I have so many of these sewing patterns that are beat the heck up, right? You know the ones, they're the vintage ones. They're all the way at the bottom of the bin. They're torn, they're bent, they're dirty. There's really nothing you can think of doing with them at that moment, but you get them because they're vintage and the pictures are awesome. So I figured out how to make some use out of them. I have figured out a way to laminate and then make a pocket that is durable so that you can use these in your journal. You can sew these in. I used a fairly thin laminate so that you can still sew if you wanted to. And I've made a few others here. And this one I haven't rounded the bottom corners yet, but I was about to do that. So let me go ahead and do that there. And sometimes it works, sometimes it don't because it's plastic, but there we go. But yeah, super cute and nice and durable. And so this one I haven't opened yet, but we are going to go ahead and pop that lid open. And we have a nice big pocket. So I've made a few for my little golden book journals here. And let me show you how to make more. So let me move everything out of the way. And this will require a laminator. I'm just letting you guys know that ahead of time. Disclaimer. However, on Amazon, and I will try to find it for you and link it for you, I know that there are self-laminating sheets which you can use with the same type of process, but instead of putting it through the heat laminator, you are going to use a self-laminator. So let me show you what the process is like, and hopefully I'm in frame. So here we have one. This one is actually not too bad. There's a little bit of breakage there. The worst one was this one for sure. It's like from the early 70s. Let's see, 1975. And it was pretty beat up and it looks great. So first off, take all the junk from the inside out. And you can use that for ephemera like this. You can use the tissue to gift wrap stuff. There's a whole bunch of stuff you could use the rest of it for. But we are focusing on the beat up packaging. So this whole part will come off, the flap. The first thing you want to do is gently try to straighten out your corners as much as possible. And even if it has tears in it, don't worry. Just try to straighten out your corners as much as humanly possible. And then you can kind of decide where you want to cut. It also depends how high your journal is in vertical length. And so this one, if I cut off the flap and I want to keep some of this McCall's on there, we're looking right at 7 3/4, which I think is a little too big for my journal. I think my journal is at 7.5, and then I'd have to go to 7, and that would cut off her head. So we're not doing that. So instead, this is what you can do. If you did have a journal that was the same height as where you want to cut, then that fixes all of your problems. So there we have, it's pretty beat up right there, but we're gonna work with it because we're gonna hack that, don't worry about that. So if you had your journal this height, you could just leave the bottom as is and put the plastic in. you're gonna use like these sheet protectors, the soft ones, to make a pocket for the inside. So let me show you. So this is now at 7 3/4, a little bit longer than that. You want to cut your plastic higher and longer than your pouch. Width-wise, you want to cut it just short of your width because you want it to fit inside. So let me demonstrate. So this one is at about, it's actually, let me cut it at 7 1/4 right there, because there we go. So 7 1/4. I'm gonna want to cut this at about 8 1/4. So on your sheet protector, you have two sides that are gonna be intact. You want that because that's gonna create the pocket for the inside. It's gonna make it nice and sturdy. So you wanna cut the sides that are open and then the side with the holes on it. So about 8 1/4 is where I'm gonna cut the height of it. Okay, and then across, this is at about 6 1/2. So we're gonna do maybe 6 1/4, just shy of that width. Okay, because now what you're gonna want is this to fit in here. Oops. You don't want it too loose, you want it just snug enough. So like this, but because this one, the corners are kind of beat up and it's too long, I need it at 7, I'm gonna cut the bottoms off. So like right about there. And so what you'll have is a sleeve like this. And then you're going to put the bottom that's already intact, the one that has like the perforations, you want that at your bottom because that's going to create a secure pouch, and you want it to stick out, I would say maybe 1/4 of an inch. And the top is kind of long, but we are going to leave it like that, and you'll see why. So you just want to iron out as much as you can. Take this out of the way. Make sure you don't have any lint or hairs or anything in your work area, because that's going to stick to your laminator sheet. And here I have my laminator. And so the laminating sheets that I use are the 3mm, which is the fairly thin ones. You want to dust it off too, make sure there's no hairs on the outside of your laminator sheet, because it's got like a static cling before you open it, because as soon as you open this, anything that's on the outside is going to be sucked inside. So when I put this in here, I want to make sure everything is clean, and then I want to set this down, making sure if you have stuff that's really super crinkled, you want that up towards you so you can smooth those out before you close this back up. So the front is fairly, actually I'm gonna bring this down a little bit more. The front is, it's fairly okay. So I'm gonna put this way because most of the wrinkles are back here. And you just want to center this as best as you can. And then you're going to, as you close your sheet, make sure that your papers are flattened out. Okay. And if there's anything that's not flattened out and you want it flattened out, just go back in quickly and do that. Okay, so now with your laminator, you're gonna run this through. And so if you didn't have a heat laminator, this is the part where you would just cover the whole thing the whole entirety of it in a self-laminating sheet and seal it really well. I just thought this is probably useful for some people. I know a lot of us have, and I just ruined my laminator right there in the corner, but we'll fix it. Some people may have a lot of these, I know I do, and they're so tattered that it's hard to do anything with them because they'll just fall apart. But this is a great way to make it durable. So it got a little wrinkled there, but we're not going to worry about that because we are just going to feed this right back in while it's still warm, making sure we're even on both sides. And so we're just running it one more time through. And if you guys make any, please show me so I can see. I reopened up my Instagram, so you can tag me on there at gipsyrosepaperie. I'm gonna put it up here. And I want to see what kind of vintage tattered pattern envelopes you've got going on over there. So we turned off our laminator and we have something that looks like this, and a really vibrant image now. And so hopefully you can see, but this is where it gets tricky. You want to be careful. Let's start with the bottom. So if you had to do this where the plastic had to peek through because your bottom was so messed up, be careful. You don't want to cut this plastic. You want to cut a nice, give it a nice ample amount of laminator sheet before hitting that plastic. So let me cut it down so that you guys can see. So see how the plastic ends there, and I gave it a nice, like about a 1/4 inch. That's what you want, because this is the bottom of your pouch now. Some of them I was able to save the bottom, like this one, and then you don't really have to worry about that. But because I couldn't save the bottom on this one, this is going to be your new bottom. So just be careful. And then again, when you're cutting the edges, make sure you're giving yourself a nice lip before you cut, because that's what creates that seal that makes it a pocket. You've created essentially a new outer shell around your packaging, and so that's your new pouch. Okay, so see, I gave myself a nice good lip all the way around. And now on the top you're going to cut through that plastic, because that's what creates your pouch. So I will show you. I would still give it a good 1/4 inch before you cut, just so that some of that plastic is still out, because you want to create a lip at the top of it, because that's where the seal is. You don't want to cut through the paper. So let me demonstrate. About this much here. So see how I've cut through that plastic. And some of you are going to be like, okay, great, well, where's the pouch? Let me show you. So very carefully, you're going to maneuver it. Your nails help, or you can also kind of bend it and twirl it until the lip opens up, and then very carefully you're going to separate that. And very carefully put your hand in here. Okay, see? And open it all the way up. And there you go. You have your new laminated pocket, and it's soft enough where you can sew. So I had a lot of fun making these. I have all of these ones here. I just thought it was a cute little idea that you guys could use for your pockets. I'm just going to clamp the edge here, but this is kind of I think it's full, maybe that's what it is. Hold on. So let's try again. I like to round the corners for a nice finished look. So like this. So that is it. That is our little pockets. I hope you guys enjoyed this craftorial. Please tag me if you do these. I'd love to see them in your journals. I want to thank you so much for stopping by. I love you so much, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!